is Shane. I'm going to introduce you to my guest, Christina Garnett, in just a minute. For some reason, we're having some terrible technical difficulties, which is not good because I am hosting a live stream with a client today. So Switcher, you better not fail me now. Let me first introduce you to Christina. She is a community builder and strategist. She uses audience intelligence and social listening to learn more about audiences to determine needs, behaviors, and more. Her work serves to help brands better connect with their current and future customers as well as fans. Christina is featured in HubSpot Academy's social media certification course, as well as their separate course on social listening. She was a nominee for Sprout Social's Community Builder Award in 2020 and has been a speaker for national events like Inbound 19 and Adapted Digital Media Summit, as well as local events for the Virginia SBDC. You can also find her featured in various ebooks by HubSpot, Social Insider, and Talkwalker, as well as articles by The Next Web, Adweek, and Meltwater. So without further ado or craziness, welcome Christina Garnett. I'm sorry that you're up on screen by yourself.
You're so fine. No, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here, and I guess we'll just get audio of me, but it's good to see you. I love your bright red hair on a bright Monday morning. So you're the sunshine in my day. Thank you for starting your week with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to start just kind of talk. I know I read your bio, but just tell us a little bit about really who you are and what you do, something outside of your official bio. I know that you just started working at HubSpot earlier in the pandemic, I should say. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and how it's going.
Absolutely. So I joined the community and advocacy team at HubSpot, and I'm working on different initiatives to really empower the HubSpot user community, be able to celebrate all of the knowledge that they have to share. And really, in probably the Cliff Notes version of my job is I get to be a fan of the fans, which I really, really, truly appreciate. There's so many amazing HubSpot users in our community. There's so many people who actively invest in making our industry better because they want to share their knowledge and they want to lift others up. And I truly love that about them and want to be able to use my work to make that even better for them. So how can I empower them to be an even bigger voice in the industry, to really improve marketers, sales enablement, RevOps, all of those things. So that's really what I'm doing now, and I'm loving it. The team that I'm with is some of the kindest and most brilliant people I've ever worked with. I feel very grateful to be a part of the team.
That's awesome. I love that you're a fan of the fans. And I guess that's going to tie into why you're here. We're talking about social listening. And so listening to the fans of a brand, any brand, is really so important. So, I know that we get not just social media and marketing people who watch our live stream, but they also are business owners. So talk to us a little bit about what does social listening really mean and how can businesses use it if they aren't currently?
Absolutely. So there's really this disconnect where there's social monitoring and then there's social listening. And social monitoring is when you're looking and seeing what people are doing and saying and you're responding and things like that. Social listening is the longer game version of this. So what happens when you see people responding and talking about your brand or your industry or the area where your business is or the products and services that you provide? Monitoring would be, let's respond to that, let's answer, let's be there for them. Listening is, how do we take all of that research, that data, that information, and be able to make decisions to make a better product, to make a better service, to improve what we're offering? So when I look at social listening, it's incredibly important because you get to have and listen and hear exactly what your customers and potential customers are saying about you. And you're able to use that information to figure out, okay, well, they love our product, but they don't like this part, or they wish that we offered this, or they love this about us, but they prefer our competitor because of this. You see so many small businesses and large Fortune 500 companies spending so much money on market research when it's right there. You get to hear directly from them. And I've worked with so many small business owners, and they'll talk about, well, like, how do I know how my customers feel about this? And my gut response is ask them.
Right.
Ask
them.
Absolutely. There's this misconception that they're going to be inconvenienced by that. And depending on how you implement it, it very well could be inconveniencing for them. But by positioning in a way of, if you talk to your customers or you talk to your potential customers and you give them an opportunity to have a voice and feel empowered in what your business does, it's a
Hmm.
very, very crucial thing that creates this emotional bond. So if I ask you, okay, I see that you're a customer of ours. Thank you so much for being for supporting us and being there for us. And I'd love to make this experience better for you. So are there products and services that you wish that we offered? Is there something that you would like to change? A lot of customer interviews that I've done across multiple companies that I've worked for, there's always been the question of the magic wand. If you could wave a magic wand and fix anything that we do or make something better for yourself, what would you do? And that for me is gold, because that tells me directly that could be something that we already have an R&D that's like, good, we're on the right track. They actually want
Right.
this. Or it could be us identifying what the problems are. And you're just because you are in marketing doesn't mean that you have the exact same needs as the person that you're trying to target. And that
Right.
can be a slippery slope for marketers where it's, I think I'm in this persona. So, and this is what I want. Therefore, that's what everyone in this persona group would want. And that's a really slippery slope because you're not always right. And so
Absolutely.
finding out and saying, well, this is what they wish we had. This is what we should do instead. It's a great opportunity to be able to pull that information in and say, this is what we need to be doing instead. This, I know that we have all these other plans, but we also need to either implement this or prioritize this because this is what our current customers or our potential customers really need in order for them to stay or start working with us.
Yeah, and I would say also, when you're listening, then you're
Mhm.
able to speak more in a real conversational manner with people rather than just push out marketing messages. You're actually
Mhm.
having a conversation, which is really what we're supposed to be doing out there.
Absolutely. And it really becomes obvious. Like there's so many times when somebody will do something, a brand will like create a new feature or they'll apologize for something,
Right.
but they will say like, we hear you.
Yes.
And so that's really what it comes down to. And especially when it comes to social, there's a lot of conversations about narcissism and people like joining conversations and just wanting to be heard and wanting to be seen and like speaking their stuff into the void. But at the end of the day, brands and regular people, we're all posting on social hoping that someone will see our post and resonate.
Yep.
They'll like it, they'll be like, "Oh, I see this," or "I find this funny." But every single person is putting something on social with the hope that it will be seen and resonate. Like that's not a growth hack, that's not a problem, that's just human nature. If
Right.
if you didn't care what people thought about you, you wouldn't post. You just wouldn't have the account because you'd be like, "I don't need to be here."
Right.
So it's interesting to think about that when you are considering that everyone's pushing stuff out there because they want to be heard. And when you're doing social listening, you need to think from that mindset too,
Hmm.
because brands, I know a lot of brands where they will just check where they're mentioned, like where they have an at, but not
Right.
where they're mentioned without an at, or they're
Yes.
mentioned without with just their product or service. Think about when you want to be seen. I'm gonna yell at if I'm yelling at you because the customer service is bad, I'm gonna at you all day because I want a refund, I want you
Absolutely.
to fix it. But if I'm praising you, I may or may not use an at. I might just say like, that was really cool today, and I went to so and
Right.
so
Yep.
because you being a part of that conversation isn't necessarily needed. It isn't
Right.
needed as much as I need you if there's a fire.
Yes.
And so
Exactly.
brands catch a lot of the hate on social because they have those ats, but they're
Right.
not getting all of the love because they're
Right.
not
Right.
looking.
Yeah, they're not looking for it and they need to be listening better. And I think that building a community comes out of this listening. When a brand is truly listening and they know the good, the bad, and the ugly, then they can really build that community. They can turn people who are negative about their brand messaging. Maybe they'll come on, turn them around and make them raving fans. So when you think about an online community, what kinds of things do you think really define what that community is?
You need to figure out what the common thread is. So all communities have these common threads. It could be that they are a customer. It could be based on where they're located. It could be based on their love or hate of something. We've seen plenty of Facebook groups pop up because of pure love and appreciation versus pure hatred and just wanting to burn it all down.
Right.
But you have these intense feelings, this commonality. And so sometimes it's how they self-identify, or it's something that they're deeply passionate about. It could be like their favorite football team, or it could be like their college where they graduated from. So it could be all of these things, but you need to understand what is that common thread, and then what would they need within that community? What are their needs? And so I find social listening to be incredibly priceless here, because you need to figure out where they're currently getting their needs met and what that looks like. So when I start consulting for community work, what I do and what I like to look at is okay, where are the common threads? Who are the people we want to target? And then where do they live online or in person now? And then what is their use case for those things? So if they're using Reddit versus Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter, what are like the content pillars of their engagement there? Are they looking to get help, how-tos? They want to hire somebody. Do they have questions about legal stuff? Do they have questions about taxes? Do they have questions about customer service? Like, what does that look like on each of those channels, and how does it differ? Because usually you reach different people on different channels. You therefore talk to each other a little bit differently. There's a user culture for each of them.
Yeah.
And so understanding the needs of those people and understanding what those needs look like on different channels will help you figure out what you need to have in place for you to make joining that community for them to be worthwhile. Because otherwise, like if you just create a Slack channel and you're like, hey, come join us.
Right.
Why? I have plenty of Slack channels. I don't need any more. I'm good. Like you need to make it worth my while. What am I getting out of this?
Right.
So by being able to communicate quite well, this is the mission of the community. This is why you're here. And then this is what you're going to get from joining it. And Sephora actually created, they just announced an ambassador program within their community. And they're very clear about, once you go there and you join the community and you look at it, it's very clear, like, here's all the different things that you can engage with. You can ask questions, you can share tips, you can do challenges and get points, you can share pictures. And so what you see is you need to make it as easy as possible to engage.
Yes.
So I'm going to be a community member. You know what my needs are. And then you need to tell me, all right, Christina, welcome to the community. Here's all the different ways you can interact.
Right.
Because otherwise, I have to figure it out on my own.
You have to figure it out on your own, and there's no roadmap, and it's too hard. And who has time?
Well, it's too hard. It's too stressful for some. Like, here's my thing. If I go to a party, I see communities as parties and gardens. I talk in metaphor a lot.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of a party, because you think about, all right, so you invite me to a party. Why are we having a party? Do I need to bring a gift? Do I need to bring a bottle of wine? Do I need to dress up? If so, what kind of dress up are we talking about? Like, what are the different things that I need to know so that I can get there and not be embarrassed? And I'm prepared. And I'm ready.
And I'm right.
Yeah. And then I get there and I don't know anybody. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. The host isn't there to like walk me around and make sure I'm comfortable and tell me, or like introduce me to people or tell me what I need to do. And so if someone from the community or party doesn't come get me, because I'm an introvert, I mean, it's hard to believe that because I'm a marketer, but if I don't have someone from the party come and be like, hey, Christina, how are you? I'd love to meet you, introduce you to so-and-so, or I'm so glad you're here. Why don't you talk to this person? Y'all would love doing that. If it's up to me to like do a lap and like introduce myself to others on my own, I'd rather leave.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just go. I'll just leave. I don't need to do that. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so that's why there needs to be those paths. So like we talk a lot about, in marketing and sales, we talk a lot about the customer journey, but not enough people talk about like the community journey.
Right. And
like
it's so important. I
Yeah.
love that you told me that about Sephora. I did not know that. And I have a 17-year-old who would really love to work in the cosmetic industry someday.
Yay!
So I'm going to make sure she knows about that because she could be very active. She's great on
Yeah.
social.
No, that's awesome. It's a
Yeah.
really great opportunity, and I like paying attention to what other communities are doing just because
Yep.
I find that you have to constantly consume. You have to see like what's working for them, what's not working. Oh, I really think that's cool. I like this, I like that. And I'm a proud Peloton member. I'm a member of that community, and I'm
You know that
constantly,
I am too.
yep. And I'm constantly seeing like what they're doing, how they're making the distribution channels. They're making it possible to customize Instagram stories that show like the class you just took and your
Yep.
metrics and things like that.
Yep.
And it's just a fun way to be able to, and that's what they're doing is they're not like no one's doing it for like purely like we love the community reasons. Like nobody does
Right.
that. There's a give and take.
Right. Yeah.
So you get to share and customize and share your journey. And that's just one more piece of UGC for Peloton. That's spreading the message. So it's like, make it easy.
Absolutely. I talk all the time about I'm on Olivia's team. I'm in her Facebook group. I'm basically obsessed with all of her classes. And I actually had Megan, who runs the group, on our live stream about a month ago. And it's interesting. I feel like that whole group has transcended Olivia. It's not really about her anymore. It's about
Yep.
these people that I'm like, make sure we're on at the same time. We all have to high
Yep.
five. It's become a community based in Peloton, but these are my
Yep.
friends. These are my people.
Yep.
And not everybody gets that, but it's true. I'm not obsessed with exercising. I'm obsessed with these people.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the great thing about a community is that if it's done well, it transcends.
Exactly.
It becomes bigger. It lives past. And that's what I think about marketing Twitter. Like nobody owns marketing Twitter. It's
Right.
bigger. It exists beyond the main
Yes,
voices and that's what a community should be.
absolutely.
Like we're
Yeah.
not
And it's
creating
a
an empire.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. And it is, those are my people too. I love it. So, for companies out there who need to do a better job at listening and they need to get out of just monitoring, what tools would you recommend that companies look into? And you can talk about, different tools at different price
Mhm.
points because businesses are all different.
Yeah. So I would start with free.
Hmm.
So actually literally just natively searching. Anytime you see a search box at the top of a social media platform, put your name in, put your products and services in, search. I do that pretty regularly just because I know that I'll find everything that I'm looking for there.
Yep.
I also like Talkwalker alerts. That's also free. They have paid options that you can like dive in based on your need, and you can do like Boolean queries if you need for like deeper stuff in the paid.
Hmm.
But for the alerts, you're able to do that too, so they can send you an email. So if you're like, yeah, Christina, I love native, I don't have time for that. You can
Uh-huh.
set it up in Talkwalker alerts and say, I want an email every week, daily, once a month, whatever, and they'll send that to you. There's
Cool.
also there's also Sprout Social. You can do
Hmm.
social bakers. There's Mention, HubSpot. If you're using HubSpot social tools, they also have the ability to be able to search. You can look in the feed and see like what's going on there. There's tons. There's Brandwatch. There's tons. There's tons of social listening tools
Sounds
for
good.
basically every price point.
Yep.
And so it really depends on what your needs are as to how in depth you need it. But there's tons of tools out there for every budget, really.
Awesome. And I know you recently started working at HubSpot. So how's it
Mhm.
going so far? Are you happy? Do you love it?
I love it.
That's
I'm
great.
HubSpot. I've been a major fan for basically my entire marketing career.
Okay.
HubSpot Academy is part of the reason why I became a marketer. I owe my career to HubSpot, and um, it very much felt like the city on a hill for me. And when
Uh-huh.
I got there, everyone was so gracious and kind and brilliant. And we're all working towards this common goal. The thing that's very striking to me is there isn't ego. It's very much how can we do the best work? How can we take care of our customers? How can we really push towards our North Star? And so it's been really lovely. It's better than I could have ever imagined. So I'm very
That's
happy.
wonderful. I'm so happy for you. So I'm putting up on the screen all of your contact info, which is
Yeah.
basically that Christina G at any
Hmm.
social platform we can find you. But
Hmm.
in addition to that, I know that you speak at a lot of conferences and events. Anything
Hmm.
coming up this year where we can find you?
I have a few in the works.
Okay.
I'm going to be talking at Social Fresh.
Okay.
I have I have a couple more in the works, so I can't really divulge those yet. But
Sure.
Social
Okay.
Fresh is coming up. There's also the Career Growth Summit from Teal. That's going to be next month, and I'm talking about my career specifically because I don't have a linear career path, and so those two are the ones coming up next.
Awesome. Well, Christina, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I appreciate you being front and center on stage. And it's interesting, since you were on alone, I was actually taking notes on things you were saying. So
Oh,
we're
yay!
always learning. I appreciate everything you've taught. I enjoy following you on social because you really do have a lot of fantastic information that all of us as marketers who are always learning can learn from. So I appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you for being
Absolutely.
here this morning.
Thanks for
So
having
for
me.
everyone, absolutely. For everyone else, I know you can't see me. I'm not really sure why, but we're going to figure that out before next week. But next week, my guest is going to be Sarah Clay. If you are on LinkedIn and you don't know what you're doing out there, Sarah Clay is the person you need to know. So join me. She's going to teach you how to be real on social, on LinkedIn, and it's going to be a great episode. So thanks to Christina, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one. Bye.